We'll be going on a little trip up to Cooperstown for the Hall of Fame, so I've got a very special guest for you, Chuck Tanner, and we'll be talking with Chuck Tanner, the manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are in town in just a moment right after this message. Well, my guest is Chuck Tanner, who is now 29th on the all-time managers list, and Chuck, you go by a fellow named Billy Martin pretty soon, too, don't you?
Yeah, about 6 more wins and I'll go by Billy. It's this nice to be around this long, Ralph. I appreciate it. I enjoy the major leagues, and I just think you're in heaven every day, even when you lose a tough ball game.
Well, you have lost a lot of tough ball games, and the strange thing about your ball club is not your type ball club, because normally you have a running ball club. This year you're having a real tough time stealing bases.
Well, we've had to do a lot of things. People don't realize it, but we've had to rebuild our club maybe the last 3 years. And, you know, we almost won it last year, and people don't, they just say, man, those guys are still good. They're this, but we've been bringing a lot of young ball players along. And we feel that although we've been in 70 games, I think, decided by 2 runs or less, and we've come out in the short end, the majority of them. I bet we've lost almost 50 of them. But I feel that we're just that close, and I know that we're going to finish strong, and I think going into next year that with the 1 or 2 additions, I feel that our ball club can go right back as a contender.
You've had to change your style of managing because you don't have the long ball anymore.
Right.
And of course, you don't have the stolen base anymore. Does that bother you, or is it easier?
No, it doesn't bother me because managers have to adjust to your personnel. I think it's awful hard for every manager to say, well, you have to play my way. I would say this is my 14th consecutive year managing and in the major leagues, Ralph, and I know I've adjusted maybe 4 or 5 times with the personnel I've had.
Well, they got you to manage the Pittsburgh Pirates by trading the player Manny Sanguin and putting up some cash to come over to Pittsburgh to manage. And not many managers are acquired that way, trading a regular player.
Well, here's what happened. Charlie Finley, who owned the Oakland A's, called me, and he said, you know, the Pirates would like to have you as the manager. I said, well, I live there. I think it'd be nice to go back home. He said, well, they offered me Manny Sanguin or $100,000. He said, I know they want you, and they're going to have to give me both to get you. He says, they'll give it to me.
He was a pretty smart guy.
Yeah, so they gave it to him, and things worked out well. We won a world championship in '79, and I think that it was a great move in my part to go there because I came across a lot of good young ball players.
You know, as a manager, you have to handle young kids, and you have to work your way around. You get to know them very well. You see any changes in the attitude of ball players in the last, say, 10 years?
No, I haven't seen any changes in the last 20 years, Ralph. I think that the ball players are the same. They're people, they're human beings, they're not robots. The only thing different, today they can buy a condo and they have Mercedes, Rolls Royces, they can buy anything they want. But that still doesn't change them. They're the same. I remember when we played back in our day that the big deal was if you could stay out an hour after curfew and sneak in, you had a great night. But, you know, today they'd wait in the lobby for you, but today you don't wait around. You judge a ball player the way I do. I judge them on their ability, what they do on the field, and if they don't like where they're at, and if they don't like what they're doing, then I like to make other arrangements and give someone else an opportunity.
One of the questions that has always been asked, okay, you're dealing with a ball player that might be making $1 million a year, and you're making somewhere a considerable lesser amount of money.
Right, considerable.
How does that affect your ability?
No, doesn't bother you at all. I'll tell you the reason why. They deserve it. That's who they come to see. I wished I had 25 guys making $1 million a year. I'd go fishing in July. I know we could win it because they're all pretty good, or they wouldn't get that kind of money. But I can go back and relate to myself when I was with the Milwaukee Braves. I made $6,000 a year. Our stars were Spawn, Hank Aaron, Eddie Matthews, and Lou Burdett, Dal Crandall, Joe Adcock, and all those guys. Now, Spawn was our top guy, making 63 or 57. I'm making 6. I didn't care what he made. I was just so happy to be in the major leagues. I wanted to stay there as long as I could. And you earned what you made at Pittsburgh because you were the star for the Pirates. You deserve that. The guys today, they deserve it. They deserve everything that they can get. And all I want them to do, though, is do one thing. Have pride that you're a major leaguer and conduct yourself in a major league manner for the young people in our country. And I really believe that we have an obligation to our young people, and it's an honor to wear a major league uniform. And the day that you don't have the pride and honor, you shouldn't even be here. I don't care who you are.
Chuck, I'll bring this back up to you. In 1952, the Pittsburgh Pirates had an infield that made $24,000 a year. That's all four of the infielders. Made just $24,000 a year, the minimum salary.
Yeah, but that's how great the game is. That shows you the progress. Because of television, more money, they have better pensions, the greatest pension in the world. They have everything, the best of any business there is. And I hope they appreciate it. They better.
We'll be right back after this. Our guest is Chuck Tanner, who hit a home run his first time up in the major leagues. And Chuck, it's been a great year for you from that year and years after that.
Yeah, I agree. I've had a lot of great things happen to me. You must have been listening to me talking in the clubhouse about an hour ago, Ralph, because I was just saying, what are the great things? When I graduated from high school, I didn't have a bathroom in my house, got running water and electricity in about 9th grade. So I got to play in the major leagues, hit a home run the first time up, pinch hit for Hank Aaron and hit a home run under extenuating circumstances. They wanted to give him a rest the first game of a doubleheader. Won a world championship and managed an all-star game and won the all-star game. And I hate to see a season come to a close. I know the way I look at my team right now, it says in the standings we're in last place, but I don't believe that because we played quality baseball all year. We've been blown out a few times and we've blown the other teams out. But every day, it's an exciting day, and so many great rewards happen to you out here. I know when the season does come to a close, I'll be looking forward to next year, and I really believe, and I know we can get, and these fans are going to holler about the other divisions, but we're in the toughest division in all of baseball. The Mets have made great strides through the years, and this is the first year they've gotten out of the basement. The Cubs have kept improving. The last 5 years, the team in the World Series has been in the Eastern Division, and I think the world champ in the last 5 years has come from our division, the Cardinals, the Phillies, and the Pirates. So nobody can tell me that we're not in the tough. In our division this year, whoever gets in, and it's not over by a long shot, can be in the World Series again.
Well, as you can tell, Chuck Tanner is an optimist. Tell me the story about the fellow that struck out with the bases loaded. This one I love.
You tell it.
I can't tell it. It's your story.
You started.
It's a time when
we have time. A young kid, Joe Orsolak, we were in Atlanta, and it meant a bundle. We're fighting, and he strikes out against Bedrosian, who throws bullets. First time up, and he come back, and he's throwing his helmet and his bat, and he's slinging it around. I say, hey, Joe, come here. I had Easler pinch hit, and he's going up to hit next. And I say, hey, Joe, see all those people up in the stands? They wish they had that privilege of going up to strike out like you did. You're going to get a lot of hits in the major leagues. You're going to be a fine player. That's an honor for you to go up there and hit against a guy like Bedrosian. And I says, and you'll be back. I said, don't you get mad. Figure out how you can hit him the next time. And as I finished talking to him, I had my arm around him. The first pitch, Mike Easler hit a grand slam in the center field, over the center field, and we won the ball game.
So you were right.
That's right. And Orsolak's going to be a fine baseball player.
And the other side of the coin, Chuck Tanner's aunt just came up with $2,500,000 in the lottery in
my
Pennsylvania.
Favorite aunt.
Your favorite aunt now.
My aunt hit the lotto in Pennsylvania for $2.5 million, Alice Bartberger. And she has herself and she has her dog. She has $2.5 million.
And a nephew.
And her and I send her a picture from your favorite nephew. I autographed it. But she likes the Dodgers.
She does.
And Tom Lasorda is her favorite manager.
Oh, no.
It really gets me.
You better change that because Tom will be up there trying to knock
Tom
on that
will
door.
be living in Newcastle this winter. I know him.
Show here today we have Mel Stottlemyre, who is the pitching coach of the New York Mets, a great pitcher in his day with the New York Yankees, and Dwight Gooden, of course, with the New York Mets as their young phenom, as they say in the business. And Dwight is 19 years of age, the youngest pitcher in the major leagues. Mel, it's really Hall of Fame weekend, and a big weekend for a lot of people who made the Hall of Fame. And you've played up there. It's a lot of fun, isn't it?
Well, it certainly is. You know, I went up there my first year with the Yankees, you know, and played in the Hall of Fame game. And it's really a thrill to go up there and see people inducted into the Hall of Fame. They're great ball players, and it's a special honor for a player to go up there and just to attend the game. Having
played for the Yankees, and of course, the great tradition of the Babe Ruth era and the home run hitters, it had to be a special thrill when you go through that museum and you get a chance to see a model of Babe Ruth in his locker and all of his uniforms and what he took in baseball.
Well, it certainly was for me, you know, not only to see Babe Ruth's mementos and all the others, but at the time I went in there, I was a Yankee player, and there are a lot of Yankees in the Hall of Fame and a lot of different things there. If you are interested in the Yankee Ball Club or any of the great ball players of modern-day area, it's really quite a place to see.
Dwight, you haven't had a chance to make it up there, have you?
No, not yet.
Now, here's a question I always wanted to ask any ball player, and I want to see what your reaction is. When you were playing in baseball with the New York Yankees, did you ever think of making the Hall of Fame?
Well, no, I really didn't, because for one thing, Ralph, I wasn't the type of pitcher, I think, that could have those aspirations of making the Hall of Fame. I was fortunate enough to put some pretty good numbers on the board in the years that I played, but I wasn't, I wasn't like Dwight, for instance. Dwight is an extraordinary pitcher. He's a strikeout pitcher, and they have a tendency probably to attract a little bit more attention, and I was one of those guys that I was very happy with getting ground balls and trying to win a ball game any way that I could. And most of the time I didn't do it in spectacular fashion. I just, the ones that I won, I just, maybe just did win by some great defense behind me or something like that.
Well, you won 20 games, what, 3 times in your career?
Yes, 3 different times. But I was very fortunate those 3 years. I think that even though we had bad ball clubs, they played a little better behind me because they had to be ready at all times because they knew I was going to put the ball in play.
Well, Dwight, of course, is a strikeout pitcher, and they are the glamour boys of the pitching form of pitching art. And Dwight, you're 19 years of age, and of course, your career just starting. Do you ever think about the possibility of making the Hall of Fame of baseball?
Well, not really. Being this is my first year, I'm just, taking everything inscribed and just going a ball game at a time and, learn the league and the hitters and finding out the things I need to do to be successful in the big leagues.
I never did think of it. All the time I played, I never really had any ambitions to make the Hall of Fame. I never thought about the Hall of Fame, and then, of course, when I got out of baseball, then I started to think about it because it is such a great honor to go into that place. What do you think about Dwight's chances? Here he is, a young guy, and going through the same process that Bob Feller, one of the greatest strikeout pitchers that ever lived, and say even a Nolan Ryan.
Well, I think the start that Dwight has gotten off to this year, the steps that he's made coming into the National League and the ease at times that he's gotten the strikeouts and the very big games, I think that if he's able to put together, it's going to take several years for him to put together those kind of numbers to be considered for the Hall of Fame. But at this particular point, I'd have to say that he has a chance, if given the opportunity to pitch long enough, to pitch his way into the Hall of Fame, because there's no doubt in my mind that unless he does injure himself or something like that, that he's going to put some awful big numbers and could be a successful pitcher, not only strikeout-wise, but a successful pitcher win-wise in the major leagues.
What about his pitching delivery? Is it a delivery that will hold up?
Well, he's very sound mechanically. I haven't had to talk to him about basically too many mechanical things, and that's one of the things that I watch for as far as, looking for their longevity in the game. And I think that he's got a great future ahead of him as long as he continues to work hard, and he has up to this particular point. I think that he's got a great future ahead of him, and I can't see him doing anything but eventually making the Hall of Fame.
We're talking with Mel Stottlemyre and Dwight Gooden, and we're going to be back to talk some more with these two people in just a moment, right after this message from Mitsubishi. Along with Mel Stottlemyre and also with him, Dwight Gooden, it's Hall of Fame weekend up at Cooperstown, New York, and this is a special show that we had worked out here just prior to the Hall of Fame ceremonies that will be taking place, and we're talking a little bit about Hall of Fame baseball. And of course, Dwight Gooden, at the age of 19, certainly not in the Hall of Fame, and a long way to go, but he's in the starting blocks as he's got a good chance to do things that not many pitchers can do. And Dwight, I guess you get a little bit unhappy about the fact that everywhere you go, everybody talks about strikeouts and what have you, but that's sort of the thing that goes with your potential and success.
Yeah, they seen, what I did last year with the numbers, and this year to start, I got off with, when I go out there, I look forward to a lot of strikeouts. But basically, when I'm out there, I'm just looking for a win and to hit the right location and, get out as best as possible.
One of the things that I've noticed so far this year with your pitching is the fact that you have that big curveball, and it is a big breaking curveball. You've had trouble getting some of the umpires to call the strike on the curveball when it goes through the strike zone. And that's got to be a little bit upsetting, because at times when you make your great pitch and it's not called a strike, it puts you in a tough position.
It puts us in a tough position sometimes, I think, because, the situation I throw my curveball, and I guess by me being a rookie, they're not expecting the curveball, and now, I guess about time they're fooled, but once they see me pitch and they're on the second time around, they give me the pitch.
I've noticed that some of the games that you've been pitching, some days your curveball does not break any bigger than, say, a large slider, and other days it's just horrendous. Do you try to cut down the size of the curveball?
Well, sometimes when I'm behind in the count, I take a little off it, but when I'm going for the strikeout, or, get the big out when I'm ahead of the count, I throw the hard one, and sometimes when I don't have it, I just keep throwing, the short test comes around later in the ball game.
One of the things he's been able to do, Mel, and I guess this is a sign of great potential and a great pitcher, when he gets in the jam, he can add on. And when you can add on a little bit and reach back and throw a little bit harder and make that curveball break a little bit bigger, you've got a little potential going for you, haven't you?
Well, you do, Ralph. It's always nice to have that little ace in the hole, I call it, a little extra add-on, either the fastball or, like Dwight said, at times he'll take something off of his curveball, but he also has the potential in a real key situation to add a little bit to the curveball, too, and make it break a little bigger and sharper. And it's great to be blessed with that kind of ability to be able to add on your fastball and your curveball.
You know, the best fastball curveball pitcher I ever saw was Bob Feller. He had a great curveball and also a great fastball. And of course, he's in the Hall of Fame, one of the great pitchers that ever pitched. And he learned to throw a slider. Do you have anything in the future for Dwight to go into that part of baseball, add another pitch besides a changeup?
Well, Ralph, surprisingly, Dwight probably has a slider if and when we get to decide that it's a good time for him to throw it. It's a pitch that right now we've been a little bit cautious about bringing out, but he has a slider that it's not going to take very much work for him to be able to perfect and be able to use at any given time. We've thought about it. I don't know whether now is the right time to do it, but perhaps before very long you'll start seeing perhaps maybe with 2 strikes, throw a slider or 2.
What about you, Dwight? You haven't thrown many change of paces in your pitching so far. Is there a purpose behind that? Why don't you?
Well, the main thing, I just try to go to pitches that got me here until, the hitters start, taking advantage of, and then, I think different start working on a different pitch.
The big problem that you've had so far this year, of course, is holding men on base and the stolen base against you. You have been working on it. Do you think that you're going to spend much time later on when the season's over working on that one thing?
Yeah, that'd be the main thing, off-season for me to work on is working out the scratch and holding runners on and getting a little quicker, picking guy off at first, and that'll give me something to work on. Even with my changeup, that needs a lot of work also.
One of the things, Mel, about pitching as hard as he does, that he has to get a little drive to do that. It's going to be tough for him to hold runners on base because some of your power pitchers like Nolan Ryan and Bob Feller and others like that have not been able to do much about holding runners close to the bag.
Well, I think Dwight will be able to, first of all, I think he'll be able to come up with a little bit better move than he has now to be able to hold runners a little closer. And I think that he has the ability to make the adjustment, but it's something we've talked about and haven't worked on it a great deal during the season. I think looking forward to spring training next year, I think it's something that we'll undertake at the start of spring training and try to spend the whole spring on. And I think before the spring training's over next year that Dwight will be much more comfortable as far as being able to hold base runners.
One of your problems, I guess, Dwight, is in your career as you grew up as a pitcher, not many people got on base. You didn't have to hold anybody on.
Yeah, that's right. Coming up, there ain't too many got on base, and then when they was on base, I threw over a couple of times, and they wasn't as smart as the runners up in the big leagues.
We've been talking with Dwight Gooden, also Mel Stottlemyre. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's Hall of Fame weekend, and we'll return right after this message from Mitsubishi.